Good night, everyone. Johnson. I got us good and got us good all the time. My name is Simon Just Christmas. This is Christmas Eve. Um, I have a show news and a word for you tonight. But we're gonna start with there's a new polling into the court. So new polling find cracks in Trump base, a criminal case making impression. First impression is a case that represent a legal issue that had never had been decided by the governing jurisdiction. So this is a new case that Trump brought to the courthouse. So Trump is the first to represent a legal issue to the court. Now he wants the voters, to make a decision to take him off the ballot or keep him on. So he's saying he don't want it to be the court decision. He wanted to be the voters to make that decision. So on Tuesday, remember Colorado Supreme Court held that Trump engaged in an insurrection under the terms of Section 3 and 14th Amendment to the Constitution. So the court stated that he are ineligible from serving as president. Now, the Colorado Supreme Court had voted the court ruling that the 14th Amendment forbids former Trump from holding office because he had engaged in insurrection on January 6th of 2021. So when his supporters overran the Capitol, the folks who voted, two are registered Democrat, and then the other two are not registered with the party. So the Constitution is set fundamental rules that determine how a country or state is run. So all constitutions are written down clearly. In a Pacific document had called the Constitution. So insurrection is the act of an instant of revolting, especially violence, against civil political authority or against an establishment government. So we see that Trump wants voters to make a decision, not the court. So one, do we want voters to make the decision to keep Trump on the ballot of 2024? Two, or do we want to turn over to the court? So we will let the Supreme Court continue on ruling on this case. Because he had been engaged in insurrection on January the 6th. So I request to let the Supreme Court make the decision. Because it has been violence and threats with the civil political authority, and threats on the judges. So we will let the court continue on handling this case, and I request that the Supreme Court continue on making decision for this case. So we're gonna talk about the fate of a Canaanite woman. And she gonna have faith because she gonna get on the disciples' nerve, and where they gonna be like, come on, Jesus, let's get her away from her. She gonna have this kind of faith that she ain't gonna stop until she get justice done. Like the other widow lady I had talked about months ago. She kept on being persistent. Just kept on going by that judge. The judge didn't want to take her case. She just kept going. And this woman here, she was crying and screaming out, and she meant that she wasn't going back home until Jesus see her about her daughter. So this story gonna come from Matthew chapter 15 verse 1, 21 verse 28. So leaving that place, Jesus withdraw to the region of Tyre and Sidon. So Jesus attempt to withdraw and leave Israel and enter, Gentile territory. So the Canaanite woman from that, she came to him crying out, Lord, the son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon possessed and suffering terribly. So she wanted to meet with Jesus, for her daughter's sake. So she had that much faith, to approach Jesus among all the disciples. Everybody was around him. And she needed help with her daughter. So we see the religion on Matthew a matter that Jesus helped all the law that is the law that this woman is crying out for Jesus to help her, but he gonna be silent for a while because he's trying to make a decision. Because he the king over Israel, and she's a Canaanite woman. But Jesus helped all. So Jesus did not answer a word. So his disciples came to him and urged him, send her away. She keep on crying. She making all this noise. She bothering us. Come on, Jesus. Let's get her away. And so, but Jesus was like, no, we're not gonna run her away. But she was crying just that bad. Every time that they step a foot to walk, she was right there on their tail. So Jesus silenced, the disciples and asked him to get rid of this Gentile woman because she was bothering them with her persistent begging. Just like the other persistent woman. She just kept on going until the judge said, you bothering me. So I'm going to take your case. So they had showed no compassion for her or being sensitive to her need. But Jesus was not bothered by her at all. This woman was crying so hard behind them, where the disciples wanted her to go away. That's just how bad she was crying. That's just how bad that she needed help for her daughter. And she wasn't going back home until she talked to Jesus to help her daughter. Now he answered, I will send on it to the lost sheep of Israel. Now he was sent down here, to be Israel the king. You know, but he also is sent down here for to handle the lost sheep. Remember I talked about that the other day. Even though he Israel no king, but he sent down here for all, especially the lost sheep. So Jesus has stated that he was sent not only, apostle for the Gentile, but for the Jews. So the woman had came and she knelt before him and Lord help me. Help me, she said. Lord, please help me. Help me. I don't know what else to turn, but Lord help me. Sometimes you get to that point, you don't have nowhere else to turn, but God help me. God help me. I don't have nowhere else to go. I don't trust no one, but Lord help me. I don't have nowhere else to go. She know what Jesus is capable of doing. That's why she refused to go anywhere else. So now the disciple had wanted her to leave, but she knelt down and she begged Christ for help. Now this woman had perseverance and faith. She will not take no for an answer. And that's what I had talked about a couple of months ago when I put that out. You don't never take no for an answer. You got to keep pressing away. That's just like me. Keep pressing my way through. No matter how it look. Don't matter how the situation look. Don't never take no for an answer. And just keep pressing your way through. She know her daughter at home need help. She wasn't going to go home until she got help. She know what Jesus is capable of doing. She know he can heal. She know he can possess her. And Jesus had just started his ministry. So he really did stuff, just like this turn the water into wine. That was his first miracle. Because he had just started doing the ministry. So now he on his journey. So he doing step by step doing things. So he replied, it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it into the dogs. So she taking the bread, she feeding the dogs under the table. And, so Jesus tell her it's not right for you to take the children's bread. She taking the children's bread and she tossing it on the table, feeding the dogs. So Jesus had so when Jesus had said not right, take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs. Now what Jesus really mean, Jesus always talking parable. He's speaking of little dogs mean reveal his tender feeling towards non-Jews. So he talk about some of the Jews, it's non-Jews. He called them little dogs. So yes it is. The law that she said. Now even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. She said even dogs wants crumbs that fall off the table. So then Jesus had said to her, woman. Jesus always called people. He calls his mama woman. It's not my time yet. So he said, woman, you have great faith. Now, she had great faith. And she gets there, she begging and crying, and then next thing you know, she feeding dogs under the table, crumbs. So he looked at her like, you got great faith. You got great faith. You know, you was on my getting on my disciples' nerves. They wanted to X you out, but you still didn't move. You still didn't leave. I mean, you had great faith that you mean you wasn't gonna go nowhere. So your request is granted. So Jesus said your request is granted. You know, she had great faith. She had great faith because she meant she wasn't going back home knowing her daughters at home need help. So and her daughter was here at that moment. See, when you got a strong faith, and see, I'm talking to myself too. When you got a strong faith, we have to believe it in our mind that you're gonna have. Just like the woman was bleeding for 12 years. She don't realize she spoke the words before she even touched Jesus, because when she touched Jesus, Jesus felt the power left him. Because that means she had power in her when she touched Jesus, because she spoke the words. Would she be healed? So she was healed before she even touched Jesus. So just like this woman had faith. This woman had faith. So Jesus automatically told her, you healed right at that moment. Right at that moment. So now this woman know who Jesus is. And what Jesus is able to do. She know who Jesus was. She know what he's able to do. And nothing is stopping her. And that's how you got to be. Sometimes don't never stop until you get results. Don't never stop until you get results. Because she said there was no stopping. She was not going to stop. She was not going to leave. She was not going to stop. And she got his attention. She said nothing is stopping her, from coming to him. That meant she know who Jesus was. She said nothing wasn't going to stop her, to get to Jesus. So she was pleading before him for what she need, specific for what her daughter need on the behalf of someone else. Now she did all this for someone else. So she had a good faith. Now what come out of a Canaanite woman? Her heart is faith. Faith. So no, Jesus and God. There was just like when Jesus was standing up there by that Samaritan woman at that well. As she was talking, Jesus was checking her heart out. Checking her heart out when he knew everything about her personal life. So this woman just was looking at him. She was in shock. She was looking at him while he was talking, like, how do he know? How he know about everything? So certainly that Jesus had power enough for the Israel, and power enough to save her non-Israelite daughter. Cause remember I told you the Canaanites and the Ammonites, they kind of can, and just like the Samaritans, they mix. Because just like God told them, don't mix it up, because down the line you're gonna bump heads together. Like the Ammonites, that's Esau seed. In Jacob family. So Jacob family, Esau family, they were twins. So eventually they had bump heads together. So the non-Israelite daughter, now her word demonstrate that the boundary separating her from the house of Israel. It must be reconsidered that this woman was crying, and she was bothering Jesus, and she meant she was not going to stop until her daughter, are healed. Now she had a strong faith. She had a strong faith. Now she meant, when she was getting to Jesus, she said nothing wasn't going to stop her to get to Jesus. I know who Jesus is. I know what he's capable of doing. I know what he can do. So now God's salvation plan is unlimited. Although the gospel is for the Jews, also for the Gentile. So now Jesus, both Jews and Gentile, receive his gift of salvation. So the woman's daughter was healed. And so just like Jesus was saying, okay, I sent here as a king for the Israelite. Okay, so we got a Gentile, woman, daughter need help, and so he considered that a lost sheep. So Jesus said, okay, I sent down here to be the Israelite king, but also I sent down here for the lost sheep. So he has to see to the lost sheep, and whereas being the king for the Israelite, because he really is the light of the world to help all, any race. So that's why he went talk to that Samaritan woman at the well. She talking about the water. I'm a Samaritan woman, Jews a Jew. She's not worried about all that. You know, and a lot of people, Jesus crossed that territory, and a lot of them don't cross that territory because they hate the Samaritan. They go a whole nother way. But Jesus gonna go straight through. Jesus gonna go straight through. That just like Jesus was standing up there. And he got quiet sometimes. But the disciples, she was crying so hard. So she was like getting on their nerves. He like, and he said, and they saw the master was quiet. Why not just get rid of her? Just get rid of her. Just send her away. And so Jesus said no. He said no. You're not gonna send her away. I'm here to send to deal with the lost sheep. So he heard her problem. And Jesus realized, realized that she have a strong faith. He said at that moment of your faith, your daughter is healed. You know, because she came through the crowd. She came all through the disciples, getting on their nerves, but she still refused to leave. She said ain't nothing was gonna stop her from getting to Jesus. My daughter needs his help, and I'm not going nowhere until he helped me. I know who he is, and I know he's capable of doing. And that's all she had in her mind. So she had a strong faith, and she rehearsed it in her mind. And she meant she wasn't going nowhere. So Jesus said, at that moment of your faith, your daughter was healed. So that's all the word I have for you today. So a lot of time, God and Jesus, they deal with your heart. They see what kind of faith you have. And she had a bold faith. She had a bold faith. No matter how she was crying and screaming and hollering, she meant she wasn't going nowhere. She wasn't scared of disciples. You talking about you didn't need you to go. She ain't paid them no mind at all. She wasn't going nowhere. I'm not going nowhere until I have a talk with Jesus. She had a bold faith. And that's how you got to have. You got to have a bold faith, and you got to be persistent, and you have to not take no for an answer. And so that's a Canaanite woman that had a strong faith. She was very bold, and nothing wasn't going to stop her, and she wasn't taking no for an answer. And so we also talk about Trump. Trump was the first one to bring this situation to the court. Does Trump feel like he don't want the court to make a decision of taking him off the ballot? He wants the voters to make that decision, But they came at him. They came at him with insurrection. The Constitution is set, rules that determine how the country or state run their Constitution. And they also came out here with insurrection that the act of an instant, especially violence against the civil political authority against establishment government. So he had threatened the judge and everything else. So Trump wants the voters to make a decision and not the court. So the decision is, do we want the voters to make the decision to keep Trump on? Or do we want it to be turned over to the court? So we will let the Supreme Court continue ruling on this case because it had been engaged in insurrection on January the 6th. So I request, let the Supreme Court make the decision. It already been taken care. They already been taking care of this case. Investigating and going on with this case. So we're gonna let them continue on making the decision on this case. So that's all the word in the news that I have for you on tonight. Y'all have a wonderful Christmas Eve, and I see y'all tomorrow on Christmas Day.